Got 152 yards. Should be just a nice, comfortable 9-iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
That's dirt.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 35th episode of Preferred Lines in the year 2025. This week, my partner John and I will be covering the one, the only Top 30 Tour Championship at East Lake Golf Club. We're going to recap a little bit of the dramatic and electric finish of the BMW Championship, talk some overarching topics in golf, maybe not mention the Ryder Cup in this podcast. We'll see what we can do. But we're excited that you've joined us for this episode. As always, Preferred Lines proudly brought to you by the good folks over at Rotoball. The PGA team continues to deal out content each and every week. My top 10 power rankings piece was out last night for the Tour Championship. Touched a little bit on how the course played different, much easier than I think a lot of us expected last year post-renovation. Looked at some course fit, player skill sets, that kind of stuff. Of course, John will break down the course later in this episode, but thanks to the people over at Rotoballer for sponsoring this show, being the presenting sponsor all season long. The promo code is LINES. That'll get you 10% off any sub. Great to check out the Rotoballer 5-star app heading into NFL fantasy draft season. It's a good place with a good crew of people. Thank you to them. Welcome to Preferred Lines. Welcome in, John Haselbauer. How was your weekend? Did you enjoy the BMW PGA Championship that was at Caves Valley?
Yeah, I found this version of Caves Valley to be a lot more enjoyable than the last one. I wrote a little bit about we shouldn't have expected a pure birdie fest in the way we had the first iteration, because it was trenched in water and everything was just point and shoot and lift clean place, and just that's out of the course's control. And whenever you get wet conditions, you're going to go super low. I was, surprised by how different it did play, though. The contouring we talked about with the greens, but it really changed the dynamic of that course. We saw a lot of like false fronts, almost like what we saw at Oakmont, where if you just hit the front of the green, you were spinning all the way back. You had to really be intentional about what part of the green you're going towards, and scrambling was like premium importance. Like I can't remember another course like that where we've seen this year outside of the majors where a missed green was like you're really struggling to get it up and down. And those are things I'll definitely keep in mind the next time we come back to Caves Valley. I hope it's soon, because I think it definitely passed the test. People were happy with the way the course looks. It's a great piece of property, and they fixed it up to be tour ready. We got a great tournament out of it. It was not Robert McIntyre's week. It almost was. The inevitable caught him. It was only a matter of time. And my outrights were cooked pretty early. It was a 2-man race from almost the jump. But it was an eventful one and done week. We talked about that last week with this being the final one. I had some high hopes. If I hit the winner, there were some scenarios that could have come into play where I could have came in first place. Xander was not the correct pick.
Yeah. You got absolutely burned. The fact that you finished where you did after what happened like the last 3 weeks to you is a compliment to your totality of a season, because from Nico to then ending here with Xander, like you save him for this moment of top 50 and he completely shits the bed. It was a brutal run, but congratulations to you. What did you finish, 15th?
I finished 30th.
30th, okay.
3,500. Ironically, it's my 4th year doing Mayo's one and done. The first year was 2021, also at Caves Valley, and I came in, I think, like 7th that year, and I won 6,500. So my net earnings are up to 5 figures through the Mayo.
Unbelievable.
So we'll take that.
Next season of PL, we're gonna have to write in a PGA Tout one and done segment to probably end the show each and every week.
Sure.
Congratulations to you. Yeah. So it's funny because like we did it actually played incredibly hard the first day, and then Bob took advantage of the post rain delay and ended his round with 6 birdies. Scottie got absolutely wiped by the weather wave, and it turns out it didn't matter. But like the whole weekend, it felt to me like a UFC card that's like real top heavy, or like a boxing card where like there's all these undercard stuff that you don't really care about, but the main event was like this heavyweight title fight, 10 rounds. Like we knew it was just going to come down to these two guys all weekend for 36 holes. And I am appreciative of Bob in a way, and like his craftiness, and like I wrote it up on the thing for PGA Tour, like he's got a chin, man. Like Bob take some shots and like stand in there strong, and through the first 5 rounds literally stood toe to toe with Scottie Scheffler and walked out with the same lead that he walked in on. But it's like those like heavyweight fighters that just have an elite level of conditioning. Like Scottie is conditioned for this, like no other player in the world, to go 36 holes in the final pairing, to be relentless, to never let up, to keep throwing that jab until he ultimately just wears you the fuck down. What he did to Bob, and it happened early and often on Sunday. He's got like these superhuman skills, but he occasionally, like, he's becoming like he flashes little bits of mortality where it's like the short putt that he missed, like the 3-putted on 14, where you're like, oh, this guy's human. Ultimately, like it's just week after week, a relentless, mistake-free brand of golf where he's just in total control, and he continues to kind of crest this mountain that is Tiger Woods' invincibility, like this cloud of like, is he in that aura? And he's getting closer and closer, and the momentum just continues to build. He had the last 6 months, like once he kind of got over the hand injury, his best 6 months of his career. He's getting better somehow. It's insane.
Yeah, I think Scotty's been mischaracterized as a boring golfer because you kind of look back and he does keep you on your toes. Like he'll step over a 3-footer and miss it, and then the next hole he'll chip in. And it's like it's not like he's just in every fairway and hitting every green and 2-putting everywhere. Like he hits the bomb putts, he chips in, he flags it from the fairway. Like he does superstar stuff all the time while also doing simple things wrong every now and then. He's had a few shanks this year too, where like multiple, more than I can remember any other players. So it's just interesting. He gives you a little bit of everything. He gives really insightful and thoughtful interviews too. So I keep like character, and he was great in Happy Gilmore too. Like I'm not
Happy Gilmore too.
Like
made fun of himself. That's like the key to like being funny, is just like poking fun at yourself a little bit.
Yeah. And like I've been quick to just say like it's too bad the best player in his generation is boring and not like Tiger Woods charisma. And it's always not fair to compare anybody to Tiger. And the stuff that he's doing on the golf course is comparable to Tiger. And I think we can't compare his bravado to Tiger. And if we get away from that, then you can really appreciate everything that Scotty's doing for golf right now.
Like it bothered you. I remember earlier in the season when he said like he doesn't really like, what was it? I forget the exact quote. It was like before the US Open when he was like, I'm not trying to be the best of all time. Like I don't really think about that stuff. And you mentioned like he's great in the media. Like it does seem, I noticed after the first round I had written down that like it maybe is starting to like take a little bit of a toll on him to be like this voice of the tour. He seems to be getting a little bit irritable, like the Keegan question. And there's been multiple things over the last couple of weeks. And it's like, it's interesting because now he's thrust into this role that I don't think he's necessarily super comfortable with, of like being the face of professional golf. Cause like you were kind of critical of him, and a lot of people, and myself included, of like, he doesn't care about that. Like he doesn't really attach himself in terms of his own personal value to being a professional golfer. It's more than him to that. So now that he's like this face, because through COVID and the season coming back and through all the tumultuous early happenings in Live, Rory was that face, right? Rory
Yep.
was the voice of the PGA Tour, and we saw the toll that kind of wore him down and took a toll on him, and eventually created this divide between him and the people covering golf that kind of came to a climax this year. It feels like maybe we're starting to get there with Scottie, and I don't know if that's more on him, if that's more on just the pressure of that situation, if that's more on the people in the media center asking bad questions. But it's probably a little bit of everything. And it's one thing that I kind of took note of, as I was scratching down stuff to talk about in this show, like on Friday, and then ultimately he just wins the tournament. Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Scottie's like, he's a killer inside the ropes. And then as soon as he's out of the arena, he wants to be with his family. So
Yeah.
he's not going to do the promo stuff, and maybe he will, maybe he won't eventually go to TGL, but he wants to be a dominant competitor and a great family man. And I think it's cool that he's like that outspoken about his values. I didn't love the way that he worded it because it made me feel like he doesn't want to chase Tiger in the way that golf fans want to see great players chase greatness. But I don't necessarily, just because he didn't word it that way, it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't mean that. And I do think he's obsessed with competition in a way that every superstar in every sport is. And he's maybe just, has a different way with words about it. But I'm excited to see where his career goes, because now we're watching a great athlete in their prime. And I don't care if you're a golf fan or not. Like, I'm not a big tennis fan, but I love tuning into, a final, a Wimbledon final or whatever, when the best players are playing against each other. So, yeah, the last thing I would say on the topic of greatness too is, like, when are we going to get the Scottie versus Rory showdown?
I don't know.
This
It's
is
crazy that we just don't ever get that in golf.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've had like some Tiger Phil moments, and like I'm waiting for that to happen here, because I look at the Tour Championship field and I'm like, okay, who's going to give Scottie a run for his money? And all of the superstars are having down years except for Rory. But like, JT's not at his best. Cantley's been awful. Morikawa's been terrible. Matsuyama's been very inconsistent. Ludwig's been mostly out of it. Victor's had one win and otherwise disappointing. Like, the guys who are in the best form right now are like Ben Griffin and JJ Spawn. So it's like, from one standpoint, it's like, yeah, no wonder Scottie's been steamrolling everybody. Nobody else is playing well. But it's also a testament to just how ridiculously consistent the man has been, with everybody else struggling to find consistency.
And he probably needs that to like be thrust into the cloud of Tiger Woods, like we talked about, like those big moments. Like, it was kind of there for the PGA Championship when it was like him and Rahm at one point, but they weren't together. So that was just a little bit different. I'm glad you mentioned it, because Tired is like excessive Ryder Cup discourse. Wired, TGL season 2. We're talking TGL in August, December 28th. We're back. We'll be back at the SoFi Center. I wore a shout out to Atlanta this week, Tour Championship. When people say the city of Atlanta is starved for like a championship, they're totally discounting what the Atlanta Drive was able to do in 2025. And a lot of people taking shots at Pat Cantlay too this year are forgetting how good he was in team golf inside the SoFi Center, carrying the Atlanta Drive, and got his sort of signature win. Shout out TGL season 2. But also, it's like Scottie doesn't have that signature like one-on-one, like Goliath v. Goliath. And the other thing is like, a lot of people give him a knock for like not having these memorable shots. Like, we have so many like ingrained in our brain from Tiger. Name a bigger shot in Scottie's career than that chip in on 17. Like, that might be it. That might be his moment.
Yeah, it's definitely on the highlight reel of the end of Scottie's career, when he chipped in from where he was to, like, I say that not facetiously, like that was a cool moment that kind of
stone cold
a win
in the air too. Like, didn't even look at Bob, didn't even smile, didn't even celebrate, just club in the air. walk 50 yards. And I don't know how that ball kept up pace. I was watching it with my wife and kids, and we were watching the replay, and I'm like, though I don't even know how it didn't stop moving the last 10 yards. It was insane.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. So that's one. I was having that conversation with Brian before, like signature moments. That was a knock that we had on Scottie, the boring golf, and he actually, I mean, he chips in all the time, but a lot of them have come at not a lot,
Yeah.
but several have come in consequential moments. I still think his chip in on 3 at Augusta
At
up the
Augusta
hill
was up there. That was in
in
my
the final
running too
round.
when I was thinking about this, the chip in at Augusta. But I think it came so early in the round. This was more consequential to the end of a golf tournament because he just gave one back. He's only up one. Difficult hole. He's in a bad spot. And the other one that came to mind was the hole out at Sawgrass from the fairway. And when he sort of stormed, and I think it was like
Oh
11,
yeah.
maybe, where from like 150 yards made eagle, and it was over from there.
Yeah. Holding out on hole 1 after getting arrested is pretty sick too.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was
That one gets
unbelievable.
lost because he did not play
Okay,
well
so
the rest of that tournament.
maybe we're not giving him enough credit. Two guys that don't deserve any credit for the week that they had or the week that they've had for the last couple of months. I want to talk to you about. Let's do the Ryder Cup thing. Xander and Colin. There are problems with both of these guys, and it's a big problem, I think, for Team USA. Xander spoke after and said he can't wait not to golf. Throw the clubs in the garage, step away from the game. They asked him, how are you going to reset? And he was like, I'm not going to play golf. Dude, you're supposed to be like our second best player in 6 weeks. We need 3, maybe 4 points out of you. Morikawa's kind of trash right now too. Big problems with those two. I mean, they're both, I think, for sure on the team, but I don't know if they're guys that you can run out there every session anymore. I almost feel better going with Griffin, Spawn, these guys, and throwing them out there more because the form has just not been there for the greater portion of the season, and definitely not all summer for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously high on Xander this week. I thought it was a great course fit and one that would simulate Bethpage pretty well. So this was not a good litmus test for him. I mean, the off the tee was actually phenomenal, which is why it was all the more frustrating to see what he did, because I was tracking his first round and he kept making bogey from like 120 out in the fairway, and I'm like, what? How are you doing that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure he's frustrated. He does care about the Ryder Cup. He doesn't voice that as much as like maybe a Justin Thomas does. But you're right. I mean, you have to get into this conversation of like there's some guys you just have to pick, and how often you play them is the decision that you have to talk about if you're Keegan Bradley. And you've got that with both Xander and Colin, but you've also got that with Cantlay, who I think is on the team for better or worse at this point.
I
Because
think
a
he's
lot of
playing.
the fringe guys.
He's not playing terrible though. I think people think he's playing a lot worse than he is.
Yeah, I think he's been steadily average, mediocre
Yeah.
to average this season. But the putting has been the worst of his career. And
Right.
that really worries me in a Ryder Cup where
Correct.
every putt is so consequential. So that worries me a bit. I know he's not like dead weight. I wouldn't go that far, and he will make the team because of his experience. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of form question marks on this USA Ryder Cup team where maybe just by lack of options, you're not having that kind of discourse on the European team. That team's been pretty set for almost
Right.
the entire year. Like Fitzpatrick and Rose were sort of fringe guys who played themselves on the good side of the bubble they were always on. So that, there's only a couple questions left on that side. There's more room to speculate on US. So that's why maybe we're a little bit harder on Cantlay. But yeah, I mean, I'm not feeling great about where we are right now for Team USA.
I mean, those 3 guys being having really bad putting years, like Xander having a terrible putting year, Colin and Cantlay having maybe the worst of their careers. Like, where you at with Sam Burns?
I think
Maybe the second or third best putter on the PGA Tour.
I think it's really interesting. I think what's best for the team is probably Sam Burns, last man on, Keegan, last man off, and focus on the captain duties. And that's a really tough decision because I think Keegan was auto lock,
Yeah.
absolutely one of the best players, American, after his Travelers win. And then the exact same thing repeated itself from 2 years ago, where Keegan won the Travelers and then fell off a cliff and hasn't just maybe it's just where we are in the schedule and the courses and him not liking them or what. But it's exactly what happened 2 years ago where you thought he was on, and then this stretch he hasn't brought it.
I think he's made that decision a while ago. 17th at the BMW. I know it's a 50-man field, but it wasn't like Xander, like 49th.
Nope.
So it was decent. All right, let's talk Tour Championship. Tour Championship format changed this year. I heard you and BK talking about Paula Abdul. So
I missed this. Yeah.
did you haven't seen the commercial?
I haven't seen the commercial.
I caught
No.
it 2 weeks ago. This is the PGA Tour going back to their cheesiest, corniest roots of all. Straight up, I tell you, do you really want to love me forever? Straight up is a play on them changing the format to no more starting strokes, and everybody plays straight up. And they grabbed Paula Abdul out of the chamber in the back of our brains, and they brought it to an electric commercial of it's like Rory, like arms folded, like mean mugging the camera. And you've got Paula, and it was kind of nostalgic for me because it brought back memories of when the PGA Tour had the worst commercials that we would just laugh about. The whole, the live under par era. They've had some bad ones, but reaching deep into the bag with Paula Abdul. But they did change the format. Everyone's playing straight up, baby. You like it, you hate it. What are your thoughts?
I'm glad you explained
Threw you
that.
off with that one. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you explained that because I actually associate that more with the J. Cole lyrics now than the Paula Abdul lyrics. Maybe that's a sign of my age.
Wait, did I do the J. Cole version, or is the
No,
Paula
I
Abdul-
think
is
J.
it the
Cole
same-
sampled it from Paula.
Yeah,
Abdul.
the same lyrics. Okay.
I'm thinking of workout. So anyway, good catch. I wouldn't. That would have taken me a while.
Marketing guy. I'm a big marketing guy.
Yes. Great. Okay. Good. I'm on board. If we're trying something, we want to be clever. Good. Good on the PGA Tour. We're back to straight up. Fine. My take is that it diminishes what it means to be the PGA Tour champion if it's simply beating 3 players over the course of 4 rounds.
Sure.
It does not hold the same weight as having the starting strokes and having the Tour Championship be a representation of you've earned these strokes over the totality of the entire year. You've gotten yourself a head start because you've earned it. Now go out and seal the deal. And if somebody has the greatest round they've ever had, they can go out and take it from you, which is not really true yet anyway. Like the guys with no starting strokes were never going to catch the best player on tour 10 strokes. But regardless, I was more in favor of it because it represented something tangible where at the end of the year, you could look at it and say, okay, that person earned the distinction of tour champion.
Yeah.
Now it's this like revisionist thing. We're going to have to look back and be like, was that the year that we had the starting strokes or not? Because, Colin shot the low 4 rounds in 2024, but he wasn't the tour champion. And Sepp Straka in 2025 is the tour champion. And was that with the starting strokes? I don't remember. So it's just the more they waffle back and forth, the more it loses its kind of historical weight and significance, which I don't love. And I don't think this is a permanent solution either. I think this is another thing that people just aren't sinking their teeth into. And it's not going to be the ratings monster that a championship needs to be.
More compelling, I think, television, more watchable, but that's like a big if because it works if you get Scottie, Rory, Tommy, Spawn, all 4 or 5 guys bunched up on the back nine on Sunday. It doesn't work if someone comes and steals it who didn't win all year. Like if Shane Lowry wins this week because of no starting strokes, and it's how did he win the Tour Championship? He didn't really threaten contention or have a single win all year, and Scottie won 5 times. So it can work both ways. I've always, we've been down this road so many times. I don't want to go too deep into it. I've always been a match play guy and trying to look at that through maybe a new lens and figure something out. Did you watch any of the USAM at all?
No, I did. I saw a couple clips,
I
on
thought it
Twitter,
was
but
good
I didn't
TV, and like
watch.
people rip match play for like being really bad on television. I thought that was as exciting as the BMW in many moments, and I had no idea who the guys were. So I think it
Yeah,
can be exciting. I think that it's a format that um, is familiar, is easy to understand. You can tilt the scales a little bit to favor the better player in terms of like maybe starting up one in terms of the higher seeded player, which I've always thought, but I just think that it's digestible, it's understandable, it's everyone's member guest and club championship and all that kind of stuff is all played under match play conditions. Um, I just think that if I'm a player, I'm like, why are we going to play one way all season and
yeah,
then decide the tour championship a different way? So,
yeah,
recapping 2025, did not could have been better. I felt like it could have been a special year for me from a betting outright perspective. 5 outrights on the year. Maybe my worst year. Hand up on me on that. But started out hot. Dick Taylor, 125 to 1 at the Sony. Sepp, 80 to 1 at the Amex. Rory at the Masters. Scottie, 3 to 1 at the Byron. It was like plus 290, actually. I don't even know if I can really victory lap that. And then a Carl Phillips, Puerto Rico secondary event winner makes it a total of 5 in like 37 total events. Not good enough to make a huge dent in the account either one way or the other. Kind of held firm, but felt like it was going to be something big and just kind of stalled momentum end of the season. How did, like, you don't have to go through each one, but how did you feel like you did? Did you feel like you were more of like one and done DFS, or did you hit your quota of outrights?
yeah. I'm also on 5, which to
Okay.
me is also disappointing. For like, I started pretty hot with Harris at Farmers, Ludwig at Genesis. That was a good January, and then Valspar with Victor. So I had 3 wins through the first 3 months, and then victimized not once but twice by Brian Campbell in a playoff is
Oh
tough.
yeah, dude.
Don't love that. Those will be tough to stomach. Just never going to hedge when you're against Brian Campbell. So that I'd shoot for 6 every year. I'll break even
Yep.
if I hit 6. So hopefully, this is, and I also shoot for 6 over fall swing included. So it's not like a bad. I'm like right on pace, I guess I would say now. Like we have another 2-3 months probably of bats that we got to break in there in between. So maybe it's like 6-ish tournaments to go. If I hit one more, I'll be content with the year. I feel like it started well and a lot of close calls. There's always going to be close calls. Like you can't.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Put yourself in a position to hedge. I usually choose not to hedge, but happy that the picks have put other people in positions to hedge. So I think the process is good. I'm not like tearing it up going into next year and being like I gotta rethink the way I do things. I feel like I had enough sweats this year and they just didn't fall my way as often as I would have wanted them to.
Totally. All right, I'm going to bring up the board this week for the Tour Championship at East Lake. Let me know. Let me see. Let me just make sure screen sharing's okay. Before we get into the guys, John, last year, excuse me, post renovation, I don't know if everyone thought this, but I definitely thought that it was going to play more difficult. We were going to see firmer greens. We were going to see some features of the course restored that brought in more difficulty, and it was the easiest scoring that it's been in the last 10 years, maybe ever. But as far as I went back, nearly 2.5 strokes under par. Scottie got to 20 under, I think, right? He got to 30 total, but got to 20 on the board. A lot of guys well up there. Thoughts this year, like what are you factoring in, like in terms of player skills that you're looking to kind of isolate for success?
Yeah, you're totally right. Like whenever there's a restoration, the assumption is always they're doing this to modernize it and make it, stand up to the advancements in technology. And if people used to be able to cut corners and clear stuff, we're going to restore it so that that can't happen anymore. And with the
Yeah.
greens, sometimes you contour it because they flatten over time. So you get the breaks in there to get more nuance. and just generally having newer, firmer greens. All these things make it tougher. I don't think they made any effort to make the course easier in any way.
Right.
So it was a little bit strange. Maybe it was softer that year. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the weather was like at this event last year. It's just odd in general that it played out that way. But I would think that that should regress, and we should see a course with moderate scoring. It's always hard for me to tell too who had the starting strokes, who didn't. Like what were people really shooting out there? But you're right. It was the easiest it's ever played last year. It'd be interesting to see if it continues, but by no means do I look at East Lake and say this is a birdie fest course where you're just going to pound fairways and greens and hit the most putts. It has always been a course that rewards total driving. The rough here is meant to be very penal Bermuda rough and put an emphasis on driving accuracy, but it's also not a short course at par 71. So you are hitting a lot of drivers out here. It's not like super positional, but it's a lot of drivers that you need to hit in the fairway. And just Bermuda through and through. Donald Ross, so the greens are a little bit more nuanced, something that we see at Sedgefield and we talk about a lot at the Wyndham. You need putting skill here. I think that's pretty true. If you go down the list, the guys who play well here are good putters, which everything's like, take it with a grain of salt. Everybody who plays in this event is the best players on tour. So whenever you look at a leaderboard, it's going to be good players who do good across the board. So hard to glean on that too much. And like scoring average is another thing. The scoring average should be lower here because the concentration of good players is the most in this event of any event that we see all year. So even if it's, averaging 200, you have to take into account like the bottom of the barrel guys who are there on a sponsor's invite or, up from the Corn Ferry to fill out, they Monday qualified or whatever. There's none of those guys here. So everybody in this field is very good. They've earned their place. So scoring averages in general should be lower. Long story short, this course reminds me actually a lot of Oakmont and Quill Hollow combined. So it's an interesting year to look back at some of the majors, with Quill Hollow being played on Bermuda and then Oakmont being like a shorter total driving type of course.
Yes.
So it's actually, and like, I would think the pressure of a 25 million purse weighs on people probably more than the distinction of being tour champion. So there is this subjective thing for me of like, you've got to have that dog in you to go out and win this event, because there's actually a lot at stake.
That worries me about one of my early picks. We'll get to that in a second. All right, let's bring up the odds. Great breakdown there of East Lake. The fairways, I think they switched them to Zoysia, which is maybe had something to do with the great scoring. The guys love playing off Zoysia, but yeah, Tiff Eagle, Bermuda greens, and that Bermuda rough is always kind of tricky. And obviously the Donald Ross kind of restoration of those greens by Andrew Green before last year kind of brought back some of the perimeters of the green, so it kind of opened up some pin locations. We'll see. I think it does play pretty much harder this year. The favorite, of course, is one Scottie Scheffler. He's plus 150 this week. 30-man field, still an outrageous betting price with the best 30 players on the PGA Tour competing against Scottie. Rory, 8-1, Tommy 14-1, Ludwig 16, Russ Henley 20, Justin Thomas 22, Pat Cantlay 22, JJ Spawn 25, Colin Morikawa 28. Those are the guys under 30-1 this week, John. We can look at the without Scotty market if you're more interested in that as well. But got any gut feels? I know it's Monday, it's early. We kind of want to feel some things out, but anything at the top you're kind of got zeroing in on.
Yeah, I mean, Scotty plus 150 is just funny, but also super fair. I don't think I can bring myself to do the without Scotty this week. It's just the value is so stripped as it is in a field of 30, and then you make it a field of 29. It doesn't mean that I think he's any less likely to dominate this week. I just, for the sake of getting any entertainment out of this week, I just want guys on the card. I want bullets in the chamber. Yep. Arrows in the quiver. I just want options. Somebody's got to have their A game like Bob Mack did last week. It's their only chance that they're going to outduel Scotty. But, Scotty won by 2 strokes last week. He's not he is dominating, yes, but it's not like nobody's coming within 5 strokes of him every single week. So you can bring your A game to East Lake and beat Scottie. That is possible. And that's what I'm going to talk myself into. I'm probably going to pepper the 30 range. There's a lot of guys around 30 that I like.
Okay. Okay, cool. Here's the guy that I took that's most certainly won't win, but especially given what you said, but I bet one last chance at Tommy Fleetwood. Why did I bet Tommy Fleetwood? I just still like 3 top 4s in his last 5 starts. He's circling. We're at a 30-man field. It feels like it was maybe meant to be like that he would win the Tour Championship when he can't win a Tour event.
He only has to beat 29 guys.
He only has to beat 29 guys. I think that one of the things I noticed, and I have like a very close statistical correlation with driving accuracy at East Lake, and I don't think a lot of people may have that on the top of their board. Tommy led the field or was second last week in the field in fairways hit. He's still driving it on a string. He still gets up and down really well. His scrambling is good, except when he needs it the most, and just kind of flirting around the top of leaderboards so often that I almost feel like if this was anybody else doing what he's doing, they would be like 10-1. And I think we're just getting a little bit of bump because no one wants to bet Tommy Fleetwood anymore. And even the sports books have come to the consensus that maybe he can't win. So maybe this is the week that it was meant to be for Tommy. I took a 14-1. That's my only guy inside of 30. Crazy bet. But it's been one of those years where I'm just going to take a flyer and go with my guy. And I feel like it'd be a nice feel-good story to end the 2025 regular season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just taking a break.
Yeah,
yeah.
If we all have to.
I can't emotionally
since I've been down the road. You were there at the St. Jude. I was not. You have to go like month on, month off of Tommy. Like it's like a once every 6 weeks type deal where it's like a little special treat.
Yeah,
like
I was on him at the Olympics.
Then you're going to indulge in an ice cream sundae. That is Tommy Fleetwood breaking your heart on a Sunday.
Yes, I remember him getting chased down by Scottie at the Olympics, and it was probably a good like 3-month hiatus before I thought about Tommy again.
All right, so you said you started at 30. We've got Victor right around there. Sam Burns 28-1, Cam Young 30, Straka 30, Keegan 35, Hideki 35, Ben Griffin 35, McIntyre 35-1, McNeely 35, Harris English and Corey Connors there at 40-1, Harry Hall at 45, Goddard 45, Justin Rose at 50. Meaty portion of the odds board would not even be in consideration. I think with starting strokes, they'd be 6-7 back of Scheffler, but they're starting dead even in a field of 29 guys, and these are players, many of which have had recent PGA Tour victories. I don't think these are unfair prices on any of these guys. It's just the fact that you've got the Dragon up top at plus 150 that is siphoning so much value out of this board, but in turn, it's kind of spit it into this range.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. There's 30 guys, and these guys are 30-1. So they're telling you if this tournament played out 30 times, they'd win once.
Yeah.
And I don't know. These are good names. I feel like I don't feel that way. I feel like they would. Some of these guys would win more than once. So that's my rationale. When
who do you like, Cam Young?
So I haven't bet anybody yet, but JJ Spawn was the guy when I ran all the research. I think he's like high 20s. But he was someone who I'm looking at who's in good form, and it's none of the superstars. It's not Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Colin Morikawa. It's not even really Victor or Ludwig. You know,
22s on Cantlay and Thomas, like they're not playing good.
I just feel a lot better about JJ Spawn's game right now than I do about Colin Cantlay, Thomas, Ludwig.
Great point.
The other guys, yes, they should be shorter than him, but JJ's had a great year. That's the way that he approached Oakmont, I think works here. I think Southwind is a great comp. I think you bring a similar game plan from there, bring that here, and you'll do pretty well. Sawgrass, another, Bermuda positional, lost in a playoff to Rory. So I unironically been a little bit of a big game hunter this year. The FedEx Cup playoff, the
Yeah.
Sawgrass playoff, and the
Yeah.
US Open win. So like he kind of like gets in that mode
Look for
where
it,
like
man.
he's in the mix and he's hitting the shots and he's hitting the putts and he's putting great. So I'm okay with it. I think it plays into all of his strengths. It's a short number, but everybody's got a short number and he's actually playing some great golf right now. So I find myself leaning that way. I got nothing bad to say about Ben Griffin.
I know.
I don't know if you caught this creatine story. I don't even
Oh
understand.
yeah. Oh,
Like
I caught the
inhaled a chunk
creatine
of
story. I don't know what to
creatine.
think about that. He got a rock of creatine that he swallowed, and it gave him the shakes. Impressive though for him to be 5 over through 2 holes and then shoot under par. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you take the man for his word and assume that that start would not have happened if this freak thing with the creatine didn't happen, and all of a sudden his number might be 5 or 10 points shorter, and he might even have auto qualified for the Ryder Cup team if he pushed himself inside the top 5 last week.
Yeah.
So he's playing great golf. He's a Bermuda guy. He went
Yeah.
toe to toe with Scottie at Memorial, and I think that's what I'm looking for this week if I'm going to bet in markets where I'm going against Scottie is like who's showing what their A game is in a week where Scottie's playing well. And I like what I saw from him at Memorial. So I definitely think those were the 2 names that stuck out to me the most that I wanted to bet this week. And then around them, I think Vic is a very good number. I think the form is still very good. He's been inconsistent. He's run into some blow up holes that have derailed his rounds, but the approach numbers are still super elite. He's spiking more than anybody else is spiking. Like you look in the rabbit hole, you look on Data Golf or whatever, and a lot of these guys are all green because they gain like a stroke around on approach and it looks good, but it's like a little bit above average. Victor is popping like 2 strokes per round, 2.5 strokes per round. He's doing crazy things with the irons, and this is a very ball strikers course, and he's won here before. I don't think he won the shadow leaderboard that year, but he was like top 2 if he didn't. So I think Vic is very interesting. And then I think Cam Young would be the other guy.
Yep.
I was on him last week. I think horrible start, 4 over in the first round, then got it all together. Played great the last 3 rounds, is in great form, still motivated, is not locked on the Ryder Cup team, although I think most people would assume he's there, but it would definitely do him, plenty of favors to play well one more week. He knows that, and he's playing great golf right now. So I think those 4 guys, I'm pretty sure I could fit all 4 against Scottie. So that's where I am, and that might be the card. But I feel okay about that.
Victor would be the one that I'm not betting that I'm the most scared of. I think that I've bet him 4 times in his last 5 or 6 tournaments. Felt good about last week. There was a time before the rain delay where he was co-leading the tournament, and then those guys went back out and kind of blew him out of the water. But you mentioned a couple of blow-ups there. Cam Young, I'm sort of circling. I'm in on Ben Griffin. I got a 40-1 on Ben Griffin. So right now it's Fleetwood Griffin for me. Interesting. Like I was just pulling up Hovland, the year 2023 that he won the Tour Championship. You were right. He was minus 19 under par, led the field off the tee, led the field in tee to green, led the field ball striking, and 4th in putting. Scottie that year, and this like kind of brings me back to the times when he was like a shit putter, was 6th in the 2023 Tour Championship and 30th out of 30 players in strokes gained putting for the week. That's just not a reality anymore. Like that's not going to happen anymore. That was the time, and times have changed. And he's like a really positive, like reliable plus 1, 2, maybe more strokes gained putting for events. So it's where you get this inevitability and relentlessness from his game that he's made an effort to clean that up so quickly. Like it's been 2 years and he's now one of the better putters on tour.
It's only going to get better too. It's terrifying.
Any long shots for you, John? I mean, like, I don't know. Let's see. Beyond Justin Rose, Batia, Lowry, Harmon, Im, Taylor, Bridgman, Novak. Those are the final guys in the field. Any reason you could think of to bet one of those guys?
I think the reason would be there's only 29 guys they got to beat.
Yeah.
They're a lot of these guys are there without having won an event, which is interesting because that means that the body of work over the course of the season has to be good. And it's not like they had one fluke week and the rest of the year. Like Brian Campbell's not even here and he won twice. That's interesting. So these guys had a good overall season. They're not scrubs. There's no scrubs in this field. They're talented, right? So they can do it. The problem is Scottie Scheffler. So maybe if I were to bet in this board, I might do without Scottie Scheffler for the long shots. I don't know if that logically makes sense, but to me, it's like it's just really hard for me to picture Jacob Bridgman beating Scottie Scheffler. I do think Novak would be the guy that stands out to me. Like he's a Bermuda guy. He's played well in difficult conditions. The form comes and goes, but I don't think he should be like amongst the worst players in this field. And there was not long ago that we were talking about him as a fringe Ryder Cup guy. I think that ship has sailed at this point, but if he's the tour champion, then maybe that changes things. I don't know. He would be the name that stands out to me at the very bottom of the board.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet any of those guys down there, but you're right. Novak does. I mean, triple digits and 29 guys. It seems decent. I think he was last place last week. He played that final round in like 2.5 hours. The one that's kind of interesting to me and probably the most valuable number actually on the board when I rethink about this live on the air is probably Rory at 8-1. Like he's won East Lake before. He's been really good here. If you zoom out and you have an understanding that he hadn't really been playing much and he skipped the first event and he had a little bit of rust, said afterwards in the media that on Sunday he felt really good and felt like he found something in his swing. Like just looking at like raw data on bet spurts from the 2025 season on the whole, Rory's second in the field in strokes gained total, second in the field off the tee, fifth in ball striking, third in putting in the entire field. So he's had a really, really good putting year, second in short game. He's basically top 5 in every statistical measure. And, you know, same kind of logic that, you know, himself being one, if you just think that Scottie stumbles and maybe doesn't bring his best stuff, Rory's the favorite, and he's got to beat only 28 other guys on a course where he's clearly the second best player in the field. 8-1 might not be a bad single bullet if you haven't taken anything yet.
Yeah.
If you believe. I mean, he's got to get it. He looked bad last week in spots. It looks like there's the gap between him and Scheffler is enormous right now, right?
It is. But what's interesting is if you compare seasons, Scottie versus Rory, if Rory were to win this week, it's pretty close.
I know, dude. It is.
Rory's got a major, the Players, a signature win at Pebble, and then what would be the Tour Championship, which is meant to hold a lot of weight. And then you compare that to Scottie, who, you know, elevate the Players into a second major, and then the Memorial is another signature. So they both have a signature. He's got the BMW that's comparable to the Tour Championship, and then Scottie just has the extra Byron Nelson, which is like no one really cares that much about that win. Like if you actually break it down and ignore the other like finishing top 5 in every single other week, it's actually kind of comparable at the end of the year. It would be one of the best seasons ever to not win Player of the Year for Rory if he were to win the Tour Championship, which is interesting. But I'm with you. Like he plays this course well all the time. He has 3 Tour Championship wins. It fits his game super well. They did renovate it, see if that affects the way it suits his eye. But it's not a bad strategy. It's hard to find value this week.
What year? 2022 was that he like caught him with the starting strokes and like felt bad afterwards and like apologized to his dad that he like should have won. And it was like he took it from him, but he won by like 7 that year, I think. And I think he like tripled the first hole or something and then won by 7.
You're right. I remember that year. I bet Sung Jae in the shadow leaderboard, every single person birdied 18.
Oh, he won by 1 over Sung Jae. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Like par it and he bogeyed it or something. Like it's some impossible. Like everybody was just mashing it at the grandstands behind the green, getting a free drop and getting an easy up and down. and Sung Jae like left it short, got stuck in the trap, bailed out. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I still remember that year very, very closely. But you're right, Rory. It just kind of underscores the flaws in the system as a whole. Like, you cannot capture the essence of winning a PGA Tour championship over the course of 4 rounds. So it's not, we haven't figured it out yet. It's still a work in progress. This should not be the final solution. We're still working on it. Hopefully they take more suggestions of ways to improve this. But as we have it now, there's a championship at stake and Paula Abdul to be played.
Straight up, baby. Speaking of work in progress, we're all a work in progress, ladies and gentlemen. This show definitely being one of them, but we absolutely appreciate the support of you throughout the 2025 season. John, thank you. I know that you took a risk and kind of a leap when I asked you to be a permanent co-host of this show. I appreciate it. The feedback I've got in DMs from people has been fantastic. I think that the future is bright if you would be willing to come back and join us for some events in the fall swing and see where we can take this thing. But just wanted to give some appreciation to you. You've been awesome. You've been prepared. You've been knowledgeable. You've been fun to hang out with for an hour each and every Monday. So awesome job to you on the 2025 season. Hopefully one of us can cap this thing off with a bang and maybe take down Goliath this week in Atlanta. We'll be back for the Proker, a couple of weeks off, and then Ryder Cup. I know that you'll be there. I've got the dates penciled into my wife's calendar still. So like technically I could just book a flight like the day before and you know, I've already got grandparents scheduled. Things are lining up. I haven't made the move yet, but between you and Brian and a lot of friends that I have there, it seems like a time that I probably just shouldn't miss, even if I have to bite the bullet and buy an expensive ass ticket.
Well, you know, let's see if Tommy Fleetwood, well, hopefully Ben Griffin for both of our sakes.
Yeah, let's do Ben Griffin might cover the ticket better than Tommy. Yeah,
covers the flights, covers everything. So let's just hope for that. We'll figure it out later. But you know, I got a bed here in Long Island for you. If you end up making a last minute trip, you're always welcome in this household. And yeah, hopefully we're hope for the best this week. It's been a great season. I appreciate you bringing me into the Preferred Lines family, and it'll be nice to have a couple of weeks to recharge and then get after it in the fall.
For sure. Thanks, gang. Appreciate you checking out the shows again. Enjoy the Tour Championship. This has been the final episode of Preferred Lines from the 2025 PGA Tour season. We're out of here.